Next question's from, let's actually pull this so I can read it easier. Something I noticed a lot is when I try to introduce people to Resonite, the biggest complaint is just how daunting everything is and how complex it is, and a lot of them don't want to be creator in Resonite, but just be consumer. And the question would be, is there any thoughts on making two separate UIs for creators, one for consumers, creators having full suite, currently available, while consumers have something stripped down to just warhop inventory and standard stuff? So we're not gonna be making two UIs, like that's very oversimplified way like to do it. And it doesn't really work. The way we approach it is like we actually want users to start with a simple UI. You start like, have the basics so you can socialize, you can like, do things. And like, you have all just the basics. And then when you want to start doing more stuff, that's when you start like, digging into things. You start finding tools and actually find like, things are already that way, like in a lot of the places. Like, for example, a lot of the inspectors, like that's not like you don't find it, in your home. You have to go to inventory, you have to like, go to essentials, you have to go to tools, you have to like, spawn a tool, and then you have to like, open the inspector, and that's like, how you get to the more advanced UI. That's already like a lot of steps, and you kind of have to go out of your way to bring that complex UI. So if you don't want to be a creator, don't spawn the developer tool and, don't use it. The analogy I kind of use is like, like, say like you're visiting a friend, at their home. Your friend is maybe into electronics. They have like a lab, they have lots of like instruments and complex and spooky tools, and everything. And you just want to visit them, you just want to talk and hang out and chill. You can do that, like the fact that they have like lots of tools that you don't know how to use doesn't prevent you from like, walking and like, knocking on their door and then just hanging out in their like, living room. You can even hang out in their like workshop, like while they work on stuff. The fact, that they have tools that you don't know how to use doesn't stop you from chilling out with them. And that's how we kind of approach like a lot of things here. It's, like if you want to do complex stuff, you find a tool to do it, and then it's you have to go out of your way to like, bring the complex UIs. So the part like that I kind of like, don't understand there is like, like we don't force people to do things. If you don't want to like do like a lot of the daunting stuff, don't do the daunting stuff. So the question there is more like, why do people feel the need like, to do it? Because sometimes, it might be because you need to set up your avatar. There's things, we're doing there where we have Resonite packages, and our community has been setting up, avatars for, lots of like common bases, so you don't actually have to set it up from scratch. You don't have to touch the developer tools. You have somebody else do it for you. You just bring the package, and you're kind of done. And we want to do more. Like once there's like in a workshop, you can easily find pre-set up like bases. You can find pre-set up like gadgets and tools and lots of stuff you can play with, and you don't need to like touch any of the complex things. But if you want to, maybe maybe you don't touch like the developer tool. Maybe you're like more artistic, so you find say the brush tools. And like you want to, for example, just decorate your home. So you grab a tool like this. And this doesn't require, complex UIs. You can just start and you draw, some leaves and maybe like, decorate. They don't really make sense on the couch, but, you could just, do this in the world and like add little like star decoration. So the creation aspect, that's like the whole problem I have like, with the UIs or having some kind of like mode. It's like too black and white. And the world isn't black and white, and things people do is also not black and white. Things are it's more of a gradient. So you have like creation tools that, most everybody can understand. Like a brush, like I don't think that needs, much kind of complex like understanding on how stuff works. Like you grab it, you hold trigger, and you can draw and you can decorate things. And that's a very easy way, to kind of create. So if you had it like, black and white, which side would this fall on? Like, would you need to go into developer mode just to like, draw? Or say like, you want to put like, some sticky notes, or you want to just like, sketch something, like you grab this brush and you want to, do a little doodle. Say like I do this, Just want to like a little bit of fun. Maybe you're like not into like any of the programming stuff, but you like to doodle. Do you want to be like switching to like whole developer mode just to do this? Because it is like a creation tool. So like again, which side would you like fall on? It's just it is too black and white. Like it's too binary. And the way we kind of approach it is, more like, because sort of like in the real world, it's kind of the same. It's like we're in the real world, you can walk, you can talk with people, you have like, basic kind of social interactions. And then if you're interested in drawing, you can go, you buy a brush. You go to a shop, find a brush, set of brushes or pencils or whatever, and you can start like doodling, and you can like doing things. And we're approaching things the same on Resonite, where like you start with the social basics, and our goal is to make it as simple as possible. Get you in, make it very easy to socialize, and then like say you become interested in doodling, find a brush and start doodling. You want to do some basic edits or some basic kind of building. There's tools for that too. Like we have like tools where just like you can build worlds by just like snapping modules together. And that's maybe a little bit more complex, but not as complex as the inspector. And maybe over time you want to dip into like more complex editing, so you actually go out of your way, find the developer tool and start like editing things like on a very complex level. We also do stuff with some of the other editing tools, for example material. The material you don't have to like touch any of the complex UIs to use. You just find a tool, you find a material, which we do want to like make easier too. Once we have workshops, so we can just find them. There's like a whole like category for it. It's gonna be integrated in the tool, but it's just you find a material, you plop it in, you click something, and now this is bricks, and this is simpler to use than doing it through the inspector. And the more tools we have, like, for stuff like this, the easier things, overall get for, like, users. And it sort of, like, lets people, find their own path, depending on what stuff they're kind of interested in. The whole point is, the UI, it starts simple. Start with the basic socialization, and then it's like a starting point, and then you kind of explore from there. And the things you find and the things you use are gonna be, depending on what your interests are, on what your skills are, which is kind of different, from person to person. So making it like, very black and white, where it's like, simple and super complicated, I don't like that approach, and I don't think it's the right approach. I think the right approach is you start simple, and then like, you grow in your own way. We make it easy, to kind of discover things. It's a similar approach like we're using for the UI itself as well. If I'm gonna switch the camera. So one thing I can show you, in system we have, I'm gonna earn the private UI. So one of the systems we have is like, called facet anchors. The goal is like, you start with simple stuff. And the UI, like, it's want to make it as clean, but then like you can start customizing the UI based on your needs. And for example, you can create like facet anchors, and you can literally, take pieces of UI. If I enable the mode, you can take pieces of UI and you can plop them in places and customize how this works. So if you're doing, for example, lots of editing or lots of building, you can put stuff for that. In common places, and you customize it to for whatever you're doing. If you're a streamer, once we kind of rework the streamer UI, you can place this kind of UI, the streaming UI. You could maybe place it on a dash, you can place it on your hand, so you have like quick access, and the UI sort of grows with you. It adapts to you. And the whole point is, start simple and then let the user grow. And that's kind of our philosophy for, how to like approach things. There's like a lot of things like, going into it. There's ultimately it kind of depends, like why exactly is the person like feeling intimidated? Because like a lot of the UIs, like a lot of the complex tools, you don't have to use them. We don't force you to use them. And in fact, there's actually a lot of people on this platform who, who got here. Somebody helped them set up their avatar, and they just hang out and socialize. Like they don't use the inspector UIs, they don't use, any of the proper flags. They don't do any programming. They just chill with people. They talk with people. They watch videos together, share memes. And if you ask them, like, to do something, they will not know how to do stuff, like, like, because they don't care about that part, or maybe they want to learn, but they haven't, like, invested much time into it. But it is a perfectly valid, way to exist on this platform. You don't have to, like, do that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of, like, helpful people. If you need something done, they'll be happy to, like, help you with it. And we want to do more of, like, tooling where it's easy to, like, bring stuff in. Like, for example, if you want avatar set up, there's, like, a Resonite package for it. And our community has been making more and more Resonite packages, so it's very easy to, like, bring a lot of the common bases. But if it's, not one of those, then you still have to set it up. You have to ask somebody for help. But that is also, like, a valid way, like, you don't have to, like, do it yourself. So helping us kind of understand, like, why people feel intimidated, or why people, like, why people feel the need to use those complex UIs. Like, that could help, because, like, that's, like, one of the things that oftentimes, like, most kind of confuses me is, like, if people are, like, find those UIs daunting, why are they, like, like, and they don't want to use them, why are they using them? Because kind of don't have to. And, like, helping to understand, like, if they might maybe feel forced to use it for, one reason or another, that can help us, find ways so they don't feel forced to use them. But on the other side, there is, like, I know a number of people who pretty much, do what you say. They just do, like, world hopping. They spawn things. They play with gadgets. They hang out with people. So there's other people who use Resonite like this way. And the question is, how do we make it so more people feel comfortable using it that way?